In a landscape where cloud and cloud-style options herald significant opportunity, yet traditional models still anchor much of business technology needs, strategic IT decisions have never been more important or more complex. Greetings, everyone, and welcome from the Technology Association of Georgia. It's March 24th, 2015, and this is Tech Talk. I'm your host, Frank Baia. In this edition of Tech Talk, we explore IT transformation from the very beginning of assessment and understanding onto design and through fulfillment. What today's digital economy demands is seamless integration of solutions that deliver what you expect in a process that ensures performance. Up to the Tech Talk, we speak with Managing Principal, IT Transformation and Cloud Computing for the Cumberland Group, Aaron Meyers. Aaron is Managing Principal for the group's advisory services practice with a personal focus on business enhancement through transformation and cloud-style service delivery. He joined Cumberland after successfully serving in similar roles for Abacus Solutions and SunGard. Having worked in the IT industry for more than 15 years, he has held a wide range of leadership roles across traditional enterprise financial service industry leaders and cloud solution providers. We explore where things were just a few years ago, from cloud being little more than a hot buzzword to its pervasive dominance in the executive suite. How difficult is it for organizations to successfully make it through the various aspects of IT transformation? Join us as we take an insightful journey on just where things stand along the cloud adoption curve and in today's rapidly changing digital economy, as well as in tomorrow's future Internet of Things. As we speak with Managing Principal, IT Transformation and Cloud Computing for the Cumberland Group, Aaron Meyers. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Aaron, welcome to Tech Talk.
Thanks, Frank. Happy to be here today.
A really great opportunity for myself and listening audience as well. We're going to get into IT transformation, a little bit about cloud computing, maybe a lot, really, once we start getting granular and go into some of the things that are happening now and maybe even taking a look at what is coming up in the near future. I think change happens so quickly you can't talk much further out than near future, and I'm not sure that isn't 20 minutes ago. But anyway, that said, let's start with IT transformation, and let's talk about the Cumberland Group. Why was it founded, and maybe give us a little bit of your unique position as far as your services are concerned.
Sure. So although just formally created in the fall of 2014, the core group that makes up Cumberland has been working together for the better part of the last 20 years. To make a long story short, certainly everybody is well aware we've seen a lot of continuous and rapid evolution in the IT landscape over that time. You sort of look way back when, and very much optimization in IT was measured in one dimension, cost efficiency. And when you're measuring it through cost efficiency, having to go to separate places to get your business strategy, your integration, your procurement done was really a viable way to do that. As we've seen IT move towards really a value enabler and a value creator, the time, effort, energy of having that decoupling between business SIs and VARs really becomes problematic and almost orthogonal to the objective of speed and efficiency. So that's where Cumberland comes in. Our goal is to sit at that intersection of those three different pieces and be able to take from the original focus on what the business is trying to do and why, all the way through the technology solutions, and then deliver that actual value at the end. So unlike some of the business strategists who would stop at here's your strategy and roadmap, but we can't execute on it, we're taking that all the way through to fulfillment.
Well,
so
go ahead. No, please.
To say, combining all of those areas, that's really a key piece of the Cumberland vision. And the other thing that allows us to do, rather than focusing on point solution, point problem, really focused on the development of future capabilities, agility, cloud-style delivery, fast response, and making sure that barriers to change are driven down over time, not increasing as the technology gets more complex.
Well, obviously it's an understatement almost anymore to use the word transformational, because it was a time, a certain perspective of where you came in from IT or business consulting. There was somewhat of a limited amount of things that you could provide. Now it is a complete transformation, and so much, a lot of what we do here on Tech Talk, we talk not only vertically to, say, FinTech or health IT or internet security or CRM. We talk to all of them, and so over a period of time, from a horizontal standpoint, you start hearing the same thing, only different. And so much of it is related to transformation and the new possibilities of the cloud. And the application, obviously, literally, more figuratively, is probably the most important aspect of it. What's your take on where things stand along with the cloud adoption curve?
So it's a really good question. And for me, 2015 is really a transition point in what cloud and cloud adoption means. Up until now, for a lot of organizations, cloud has been a location. Cloud has been a place to do something. Really at this point, though, I think about, and more of our clients are thinking about, cloud as a style or a method for service delivery. Mm-hmm. So when we think about it as a location, what we see is that too many organizations are suffering through operating challenges, costs way in excess of expectations, unmanaged sprawl, and frankly even slowdowns to their delivery pipeline. Essentially, they're getting the exact opposite of what they were trying to get by going to the cloud. What we're finding as the common root cause in all of those is an underinvestment in the actual changes to the legacy IT operating model, and so they're experiencing a collision between how they used to do IT and how cloud as a delivery model wants IT to be done. So bringing together all of those pieces is really the way that transformation and cloud-style computing come together and move beyond being a buzzword into a set of actionable plans. We really want the move of the technology itself, so picking up your compute and dropping it into Amazon, Azure, wherever it may be. That's really one of the last things along the roadmap that should change. And when it changes, we want that to be largely, if not entirely, transparent to the business and to the business customers. The way we get there is through a cloud-style service catalog that has been put in place. It defines the roles, responsibilities, and really the abstraction model needed to deliver those cloud-style services. When that's done well, the location of service delivery becomes irrelevant, and the services can be provided on-premise, with stuff you buy from Cisco, EMC, VCE, in a co-location environment, a managed service environment. It really doesn't matter anymore. A well-designed, well-executed cloud-style catalog has abstracted the technology away to a point that the bundles and offerings are really what the business customers are buying, and they don't care and don't need to care about where it runs under the covers.
Be a little bit more granular. I think for some of our listening audience, one of the things we definitely want to get into is how organizations successfully make it through the various aspects of what you're describing, transformation, of course. But let me go into just a little bit more. You've covered it, but when we talk about cloud-style service, yes, you do hear that a lot. But when you talk about a service catalog versus traditional style service catalog, point out the differences again and maybe make them a little bit more simpler and maybe reinforce some of the points that you made.
Sure. So I like to think about things visually. So for me, I see legacy IT and ITIL-style service catalogs typically as silo-based organizations. Mm-hmm. So they'll have compute, network, storage as different towers or silos. Each will have their own catalog of capabilities, and then the service levels, price points, and often independent roadmaps to go with it. When you have a project to do or an environment to build, you then need a project manager, architect, assign engineers to go figure out what are the right combination of those components, because the towers don't particularly work together. It really becomes the internal customer need to put those pieces together. And the end result is that virtually every use case ends up being a custom bespoke combination of those component capabilities. Because nobody in the IT service organization is trying to bundle them together. They're letting each project dictate the way it wants to assemble its own car, its own menu, if you will. Cloud Style is really focused on abstracting that up a layer into bundles, combinations, recipes, whatever you'd like to call them. There's a good analogy I often use when talking to customers about this. If we think about what the McDonald's menu used to look like before the invention of the value meal, you'd pick your own meal, you'd pick your own side, you'd pick your own drink, you'd put it together. You could see what the individual prices are, but you had to look up at the menu, describe all of the pieces, and order what you wanted. That then got bundled into a value meal, which has a couple of key advantages. The first is that it's actually discounted because McDonald's is used to providing that in a bundle and has created incentive for you to order that way. It's also much more efficient to order that way because now you can walk in and say something like, I'll take the number 7 meal, please. And that's all that it takes. Your service level, price, time to deliver, quality of food is all implicit and expected in there. You can take that even further to something like Boston Market's family meals, or all the way to Chick-fil-A's catering options of, I need to feed 40 people, tell me how much, go. That's really the analogy for cloud-style service catalog. You want to get to a point where the services, the components, the metrics, the service levels are all predefined so that the business is no longer trying to describe how much storage they need or how many gigabytes of RAM or technical components that really they have no visibility into. It allows them to start to describe things like, I need a test environment for the new version of the middleware, and I need it to be scalable and replicable because I'm going to need, a half dozen to a dozen of these environments over time. It changes the syntax of that dialogue to a syntax that's meaningful to the business. And then the cloud-style service delivery model becomes enabling the tools and technologies to deliver bundles, recipes, packages, whatever word you want to use around them, in a way that actually provides capability to the lines of business inside an organization, not just components anymore.
Well, and hearing you describe it, I'm going to guess that if you're dealing with Cumberland Group, you can also supersize everything.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, let's go into the difficulty in terms of the transition, because even though you've simplified it the way you've described it, and I think it really allows the average individual, even a serious executive, a serious business owner that's confronted with literally multi-millions of dollars of transactions going on simultaneously, dealing with a lot of different aspects in terms of their technology. And legacy systems have a certain comfort level to them. People don't like change because change has a level of insecurities to it and even difficulties. And so let me go into a little bit about that. How difficult is it for an organization to make it through those aspects of transformation?
Well, so really there's two parts to that question and answer. The first is, if we look at the technology piece, it turns out that has really becoming what I'll call the easier piece of the puzzle. I don't want to understate the amount of work that can be involved. It can be a huge body of work. But in terms of the difficulty of the work, Cisco, Amazon, OpenStack, these guys have spent tens upon tens of thousands of person hours developing and honing the technology side capabilities that are needed to get there. So the heavy lifting that can't be outsourced, can't be commoditized, and can't be bought from one of those guys is really the organizational change management. And that's where I personally spend the vast majority of my time with our customers. Understanding their real business objectives and trajectory, not just from an IT standpoint, but where are they going with the business? What do the revenue-generating lines of business look like? How do their costs look today? What are their pain points from everything from skill to time to market to competitive landscape? From that, we start building a horizontal-based, a layer cake, if you will, IT supply chain organizational design, where each layer bundles and abstracts, as we talked about, the layers below, so that way the customers need to engage with the right dialogue at their level, but don't need to worry about all of the layers below that in the supply chain. We spend a ton of time dealing with that actual organizational change management, defining the charters for the groups. What does each group do? Who do they do it for? Why do they do it? We take service catalogs and in some cases build them for the first time. In others, we are taking old service catalogs and transitioning them from their component views into capability views. those capabilities, we put in place the organizational designs that go with them, RACI charts, roles and responsibilities. And then you've got the people side of the equation. Training and development, some can be done internally. As much as anything else, there's a culture and a way of thinking shift that happens as part of this change within an IT organization. So trying to find which of your people have the skills to deliver on the pieces, but perhaps even more importantly, those that have the abilities to think differently, to think about the business service that they're enabling, to think about the bundle of capabilities, to think about how do I make the lives easier of the customers that I transact with internally and externally. That's really where a lot of the heavy lifting goes in. And then, of course, that isn't just an IT exercise. That's got to happen throughout the organization. Ongoing education, mentoring, transparency, dashboarding, really that culture of never being satisfied with today, always striving to improve for tomorrow. There's obviously a number of different bundled methodologies around continuous improvement. But that can be a really big shift for the capability side of an IT organization. Places that do it today tend to do it well around how do we keep advancing the technology component capability, really doing it at a cloud-style service model. That piece is what's new for most organizations. That piece is hard for a lot of organizations, and that's where we spend a lot of our time helping them through, taking the lessons learned from the organizations that have come before them facing the same challenges to help folks avoid bumping their heads in places where we know well enough to yell duck or jump or whatever's coming at them to help them navigate through that Donkey Kong obstacle course without having to experience all the pain firsthand.
Well, the cliche says work hard, work smart. I mean, obviously, when you've got the kind of expertise, the kind of insight, the perception, even the fundamentals to legacy systems and an understanding of basic business acumen, adding the thought leadership, the dynamics of having the transitional mentality and a cloud experience, it's powerful insights, Aaron. The stuff that you're going through, just listening, I think many of our listeners would kind of want to do a checklist and just ask themselves some of those questions if they've looked at any of those areas, no less having someone with your background and experience or your organization to look at it with them at the same time. We're quickly running out of time, but one thing I do want to cover is the vendor landscape, and obviously it's evolving over the coming years. You mentioned Cisco, Amazon. What's going to happen over the coming years, and what does that mean for the business consumer?
Sure. So I think the big three in the public cloud space, Amazon, Google, Azure, it's a three-horse race, and those guys are largely racing to get compute and storage costs down to zero. The integration market is really expanding, making it easier for organizations to take capabilities that they build. You no longer have to make a key technology platform selection in order to start your cloud-style transformation. If you learn to do cloud-style delivery well, the breadth and depth of the integration components are making it easier and easier for you to then take that ability and lay it down across whatever technology, whatever cloud you want. For next frontiers, platform as a service is really the big mainstream space that's still in front of most of our customers. Certainly the early adopters are out there and doing a lot with it, but it's really become mainstream to take, instead of delivering direct infrastructure, be able to bundle that up into platform, move the entire IT cloud-style delivery model further up the value chain, really drive down utility capabilities to utility price points, not just for compute and storage anymore, but also for core shared database, shared storage, the sorts of capabilities that are rapidly evolving in this expanding platform as a service space. And the reality is when you do all of this well, it gives you the opportunity to pull the two most important IT levers simultaneously. Faster time to market at a lower cost of development. When you can do those two things simultaneously, IT really does become a value creator, and that's what Cumberland, my team, the rest of our organization is out there helping our customers do every day.
Well, you've got to wonder that when the platform the whole thing becomes as a service and it's ubiquitous, what's the unique selling proposition and how do you remain competitive when everyone's on an equal level with that kind of power resource? I mean, I know we're timed away from that, but it's certainly the opportunity is to move and move quickly. So if you're a listener, to get involved and make the changes if you've been thinking about it sooner than later. But you got to kind of wonder that at some point when it becomes ubiquitous and everybody's operating at least reasonably with the same triggers as you're mentioning for the IT capabilities that you've identified, you know, what you kind of wonder what's next. And I'm going to leave that as a tease because unfortunately we're quickly running out of time. In fact, really, we're out of time, and I want to thank you so much for the few minutes you've shared with us, Aaron, and the powerful insights. But to be candid with you, the information has been so valuable and so good. We'll hope to invite you back so we can continue our conversation.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate the time today.